Okay, we are online now. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to AOAUK podcast. Once a month, and I will invite Mandi and Marcus to join me. We're going to talk about the new moon, full moon, and how going to happen for during this lunation. Hello, Mandi. Happy New Year.
Hi, Rod. Hi, everyone.
So, well, yes, our audience probably already noticed that Marco is not here. Well, he's not late. He is traveling at this moment. He's going to enjoy nice food. I'm not going to say where he is. At least he's going to tell you. But I really wish he enjoy his trip. But today is me and Monday going to talk about the transit in January, especially. Today is a full moon. Wow. It is very, very interesting energy at this moment, especially to fit into this full moon and everything around it, like the planet position, the sky. So, Monday, what the interesting part of this full moon?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's a full moon in Cancer. So the moon is in Cancer, opposite the sun in Capricorn. And the Cancer Capricorn axis, just to give it a little bit of context, it's about when you're talking of an opposition between those two signs, it's about the balance of home and family, which is more Cancerian, versus work, duty, obligations, which is more Capricornian. So it's those obligations that take you sort of outside of the family into the work context versus your own personal needs. We've just come out of a holiday season, so it is that kind of back to this week in the UK particularly, and in other countries it's that back to work after the holiday time, after the New Year celebrations. It's back to work, so you've very much got that kind of axis going on at the moment. Oh, we had such a nice time at home. Hopefully everyone has Christmas or whatever they celebrate, if anything, and a lovely New Year. And now it's kind of back to the grindstone, Capricorn, opposite the Cancer moon. But because it's a full moon, full moon, everything, it's a culmination. It's the half point and the high point and the peak point of the 1 month lunar cycle. And in the immediate lead up to the full moon, and the full moon is itself, everything is in full light. Things become clear, things become seen, things become obvious. So this full moon in particular is interesting because you can see on the chart that you've just put up, Rod, that it is very closely, exactly almost conjunct Mercury, the planet of communication, the planet of speech, the planet of travel, retrograde. So we hear a lot about retrograde Mercury and how it's about having to rethink, redo, research. Delays in communication. Interestingly, because this full moon, because any full moon is about things coming to light, things becoming obvious, things becoming seen. We have had something that has come to light under this Mercury retrograde, literally, I think today or yesterday. Very full moon, very to do with authority and the sort of the royal family. We're talking about the royal family here, right? The accidental early publication of Prince Harry's book Spare, in which he talks about about his experiences as a young man, but also his experiences within the royal family. And you can see there that there is a trine to Uranus from that sun, and a sextile to the moon. And to say it's been shocking and controversial is pretty much an understatement. I think you can't put on the news television at the moment in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in the US and in lots of other across Europe and all across the world, really, that they're picking over the bones of all these very controversial things that he said. Now, as astrologers, seeing that Mercury retrograde on the full moon, we're not surprised it's come out early or there's been some mistake that's happened around its publication. Public publishing is more Jupiterian, as we know, but also we can see a link to that. We can see a link to that full moon to Jupiter in Aries, in the Aries point, pretty much, where things become obvious and things become very, very public. And Jupiter in Aries doesn't want to wait. It's going to just like jump the gun and go fast, and it's not going to wait, and it's urgent, and that's going to take a risk. And of course, again, so it's just hardly surprising. And, you know, it feels like the book has come out at the very right time when you look at the astrology, particularly when you see also in this chart, you've got Mars in Gemini retrograde. There you go.
And what we heard about, what surprised us?
What surprised us?
The brother fighting.
Yeah, they're fighting in the royal family. Literally, Harry said that, alleged that his brother, Prince William, now the Prince of Wales, pushed him over during an argument, and he randomly fell and hurt himself on the dog bowl, which is really interesting. But also, one of the most controversial things that has come out of the revelations in this book is he spoke very candidly about his time in the military when he served a couple of tours in Afghanistan during the war. He actually said how many Taliban fighters he thinks he killed and how he felt about that, which is really interesting. And the controversy there is that the military have turned around and said, that is just not done. You do not talk about that. It's not done. It's not publicized. So that is probably turning out to be the most controversial thing that he said. He's talked about his life in great detail. Again, Mars is very Mars is about sex and desire and that kind of thing, and drug taking and all that. So yeah, that it's very interesting. It is. Yeah. What do you think, Rod?
I think it basically, this book is well. I think we are not surprised. Of course, we're surprised by the detail, especially tell you like how the brother fight. And this controversial leaking about his experience in the military, and that with that detail is totally. I don't know, some military person are not happy with that. Say you should not do that. You should not say that because you are put our colleague in danger or something. And which, I think it's true that sometimes you have to consider about professional things. But for Liz, he reveal all these things. He trying to. I don't know why he's doing this. I really have no idea, because right before he published this book, he was appear on TV and say he wanted the father and the brother back. And I wonder how his book going to have his brother and his father back. If I were then, I just feel like it's a little bit more difficult now. You just making things more complicated anyway. But I have a funny thought, to be honest, Mandi. I think it's just going to make you laugh. Because if you go to see I think was in 1st January on the Financial Times, they published a calendar of our January in England or in United Kingdom about the January calendar of a strike. And that strike is so funny because you will see every single day we have postal strike, train strike, railway strike, public servant strike, and teacher strike. Nearly every day we have at least 4 different unions going to strike. And what our Prime Minister say? He say he want everyone learn mathematics until they 18.
Do maths, more number. He's an accountant, right?
I don't mind. I love it. I really agree with his idea from someone from Asia who has been studying really hard, being whipped by teacher and the parents to study more every terrible things that we never want to study, including mathematics, including physics, including chemical engineer or whatever. I just say student in UK is have a pretty nice life. And do they need to study more mathematics? I say yes. And maybe more Latin, maybe more philosophy, and maybe more French or Spanish or whatsoever. Study more is a good thing. But this is not the time. This is not what he should. He should focus on whole country. People is not happy with the economy. People are not happy with the inflation. And well, they talk about energy price coming down, but have we benefit from it? No, we're still going to pay a high price. And the NHS needed the funding. Like today, I just see a thorough picture, and that is the truth about A&E. People are waiting for 7 hours for A&E for emergency. 7 hours. I think if I need A&E for 7 hours, probably already gone. I think.
Dead or better.
Already just like turn up and say, I getting better now, I'm going to walk away. I think that's how the way to tackle down the NHS queuing. But well, he's not talking about this, and he tell about go to learn more math. And I just think because he's so embarrassed, like he asked someone in the Christmas about, do you want to working for bank? Ask for a homeless person, do you working for the bank? I just think that he probably negotiate with Harry. I give you a chance to publication, so we will give all the spotlight to you, so everyone will forget what embarrassing I say.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Mercury is about the news agenda as well, and it's about journalism, and the media has just blown up with this whole thing. But with Mercury being in Capricorn, it wants to have serious conversations. So hopefully serious conversations will take place on some level, at some level, once Mercury goes direct again. And also with Mars in Gemini retrograde, and it is in a mutual reception with that Mercury. And the reason we're focusing so much on these is because Mercury is conjunct the sun, and also a full moon and a new moon, so a lunation, as it's called, will trigger, always acts as a trigger for the prevailing transits or the prevailing planetary energies. So while there isn't I can't see a particular strong aspect between, well, there's not really an aspect between Mercury and Mars, because they are in mutual reception, which means they are in signs that are kind of ruled or associated with the other planet for it to explain it. If Marcus was here, he would be able to explain it much more directly, because this is a much more clearly. But basically, Mars is very happy in the sign of Capricorn. It's very strong in the sign of Capricorn, so it has a nice kind of feeling towards Mercury, and Mercury rules the sign of Gemini, for example. But to add a bit of a layer of meaning to that, because they're both retrograde, we are reminded that we cannot take back what we have said in anger. And this is for everyone, you know, it relates to the sort of Prince Harry thing, but also it's a general sort of thought for everyone around this time of this full moon. And also, as I already said, sort of serious conversations. I've got a very quick, if we've got time, I've got a very quick personal story about this Mercury retrograde being triggered by this full moon. So and it's about education as well, of course, Mercury. And I was holding a place on a university course. I've been holding it for a while I made my decision, and I decided not to at this time take up the place on the course. So I let them know by telephone. I let them know by email. Didn't hear anything. Thought, fine, they know I'm not going to be starting the course in January. Anyway, so I get an email from one of the senior lecturers on the course, with about 3 or 4 other lecturers, sort of all copied with sort of a big note and sort of induction and reading lists and this, that, and the other, you know, course structure, all of this kind of thing. So I email them back and say, sorry, you probably didn't get the message, but I've already communicated to the college that I'm not taking up the course. Email back and said, oh yes, sorry, thank you. We'll let everyone know. Blah, blah, blah. The next day, this was yesterday, I get an email from someone in the administrative department of the college asking me why I haven't enrolled. So I email them back and I say, this is why I haven't enrolled, because I've already let the college know a couple of times, you know, that I'm not going to be taking up the course. Thought it over and done with. Yesterday, I got 2 phone calls from them, missed calls. I take the calls because I was off, you know, I wasn't I don't have my phone with me all the time, and I keep it on silent most of the time. 2 calls from them wanting to know why I hadn't enrolled. I mean, it's a minor irritation, but it's quite a good sort of, you know, Mercury retrograde, especially when it comes up to a strong, you know, they really came to a head for them. They really wanted to know why I hadn't enrolled and when I was going to turn up for this course when I'd already told them I didn't want to do it. So that's Mercury retrograde, really.
I guess they are deliberately annoying you just because you don't continue. They want to push you until you say, "Fine, I take it."
Yeah, exactly.
And when they like, pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Joking, but this is a really Mercury retrograde administration thing. You know, that is so interesting. Thank you, Mandi. But from I have another view about this new moon chart. Just before we leave it, is
full moon chart.
A full moon. Sorry, full moon chart.
Mercury retrograde in action.
Yes, is that Chiron. I think no matter like from the news about the Prince Harry and his royal family, that something, or in our everyday life about with this full moon with the family or with communication or with publication things. I think there's nothing is unfixable with this Chiron, because when this full moon form a cardinal T square with Mercury, form a cardinal T square involved with this Chiron. Yes, it's like the story he revealed. He feel hurt and he feel unwanted. He say spare, and it's so interesting that it's like I don't have a value. I'm not important. With that Chiron in Aries, square sun and moon. And in the story, in the book, he revealed all the family things. I mean, that is really sun, moon, and Mercury, OT square with Chiron. But that does not stop here, because I think Chiron give us a chance. When you see it, you can start to heal it. You can start to, to make it up. You can work on it. I mean, it's not about hurry, because they have a lot of resource they can use. I mean, you and me and our audience in everyday life, if this moment, if this month, you feel that kind of not like Prince Harry, but you feel like hurt, wounded, or you remember or you recall some, unpleasant part, which may be related to family issue, especially Capricorn and Cancer and Mercury, sibling issue are all involved in this T square. You may feel like, oh my God, that is, that hurts. I think although it's a T square, it's hard, but it still gives us a chance to heal, to embrace that unpleasant moment, because it makes who you are today. So I like this moment. You see it, good. It hurts. Well, it already happened. With this cardinal T square, I will just tell Prince Harry, move on, darling. Sorry, I've been harsh to him.
That's a fantastic observation, Rod, and I completely missed that Chiron T square when I was looking at the chart earlier. But Chiron is kind of the wound that never heals in a lot of ways as well, isn't it? You live with it and you learn from it, and then you pass on your learning. I think has a lot to do with Chiron. And I think Melanie Reinhardt, who's the Chiron expert, she also associates Chiron with the maverick. And if we're talking about Harry again, I think what's really interesting when he's a maverick within the royal family, undoubtedly. And I had a brief look at his chart before I came onto the Zoom call. Now, if you think about the wound is a parental wound, isn't it? It's about the death of his, it's about his relationship with his father and his family in general. So you can say that Sun in Capricorn is the father in this situation, and the moon in Cancer is mother. Of course, his mother was a Sun Cancerian. And when you look at his chart and you put this full moon, when his book came out early and accidentally, when you put this full moon onto his chart, you can see that the sun, let me just double check I've got this right. You can see that the sun is conjunct his ascendant, so it's angular.
Ah,
The moon is
okay.
conjunct his descendant, and
Oh,
Uranus is on his IC, i.e. the cusp of the fourth house. The fourth house is about your family and about your roots, and that's what it's all about. So it
oh my
speaks
God.
very clearly, this full moon speaks very clearly about that situation. And again, it demonstrates how the full moon, the lunations, really act as triggers for events.
Thank
So
you, Mandy,
we've
for this speech.
demonstrated
It's a speechless. I just like, oh, I didn't notice. I even not bothered to check his chat, but I just thinking, all of news is about it. I didn't, I read, I should check it because it is so interesting because if I put this down, you will understand how astrology works and why we are so fascinating about this astrology. And thank you, Mandy, to mention about the marriage thing. Yes, that is the bit I like it, and I just like not really always associated together. Thank you very much. That is so interesting. And well, should we move to the next generation, or you want to add anything in before we move on?
No, that's it. It's fascinating, and it's tonight, folks, and we're recording this on the 6th of January. So if
Yeah.
you're watching this on the replay after the 6th of January, note that the energies of the full moon do prevail for a few days. So still relevant what we're saying, and it's interesting to follow through on some, you know, to think through and see how these things follow through as it comes towards the new moon that we're going to talk about now. Not only with things that are happening in the world that we've mentioned, but also in your personal lives as well.
Yes.
Maybe the university will not let me go, but still I turn up and do their course. Oh, fine, if they let me do it for free, I'll
why not? I would say yes, do it if it's free.
New moon.
So here we have new moon on the 21st of January. Well, honestly, I will let you know, this would be the time I will be in Taiwan for the so-called Chinese New Year, or most people like a more correctly way to say it, Lunar New Year.
Fantastic.
So this is the Lunar New Year. So by that time, I think a big part of Asia, East Asia, people will be just like in the holiday and eating and meeting the family. But look at this chart, how interesting it is. We got Sun Moon conjunct at 1 degree Aquarius, and the very next to Pluto. First, this 1 degree Aquarius always remind me that 2 years ago, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at this position. So it could be a trigger, you know.
Another trigger, isn't it? Yeah. Another instance of a lunation triggering. Lunations can trigger the degree points of major transits that have already passed, that are still we're feeling the energy of, and obviously the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius is a big conjunction for a number of reasons. It's very important one for sort of world events, but also on a personal level, if it hits your chart.
Yeah, and I feel like this new moon. The first thing, I don't know, when I just turned on this chart, I just noticed that Mercury Mars quincunx. I don't know, because that line is so thick there. Just like, have you noticed that one?
I have, and I've also noticed that they are both now direct. When we just looked at the full moon chart, they were both retrograde. So it'll be interesting to observe some of the news stories. For example, Mercury, if you follow the sort of news in mundane astrology, i.e. world astrology and astrology of the news, Mercury is obviously all about the news. It'll be interesting to see how the agenda has moved on and how it's changed. And like we said about Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, you can't take back what you said. It's kind of out there, especially as it came out there under the full moon. All the things we talked about that came out and were revealed quite controversially under the full moon, you can't take it back. So it's be interesting to see what happens next under this new moon energy, other strong lunation. Like you say, a quincunx energy is not easy, is it?
No, it makes people feel like, because my understanding of the quincunx is like the judgment. and try to adopt something. But somehow it has the feeling of like they're struggling. They are trying to make things right, and it's dark there. The word I shouldn't use the word dark or so-called of dark there. But the reason I say that is because if you look at ephemeris around just before the new moon, and around the new moon time, 3 planets, Mercury just turn direction, and Mars also change the direction, not far away, maybe just a couple days. I think it change direction on 13 and 14. Then Uranus going to change the direction just maybe 1 or 2 days after this new moon. So I mean, during this new moon, Mercury is just about change the direction and then moving slowly. Mars moves super slow, and Uranus is going to station. So I feel there is, from that view, I feel that it could be hold things, slow things down, or maybe remind us, like what we say, in around the full moon, there is a lot of things you already said it, you couldn't unsay it, you're probably going to handle it, you're probably going to arrange, you're probably going to do something about it. But I guess this Mercury and the Mars and the Uranus probably trying to hold you down, just say, think about it again, think about it again.
I think it's interesting as well when we're talking about this mutual reception, obviously, between Mars prevails. Yes. And it's about talks, isn't it? It's about talks. Yes. Today, the British Prime Minister has finally given in to the unions who are calling all these strikes and said he is going to sit down at a table and talk to them. Before he was refusing to do that, he said the pay deals had been independently already worked out. No discussion, and he is going to do that. And the quincunx there tells me that they're possibly not really going to come to much of a resolution, because if you think about opposition's about relationships, right? And they're directly opposite. 2 planets are directly opposite each other, so they're in a relationship and they're reflected in relationships, any kind of relationship, love relationship, friendship, family, business, etc. But where 2 people or 2 parties are talking, and they can see each other. They can directly see each other and look each other, so to speak, in the eye and speak and have a conversation and possibly come to a resolution. They can find balance or they can compromise. Not always, but that is the energy. That's what an opposition invites us to do. With a quincunx is also related to, is also associated with relationship. But they're not opposite. They don't see eye to eye. They're not conjunct, so they're not together. They're not in the same or in one place. They're not square. If they're in a square, again, they can kind of see each other. And the square, there's a route to dealing with a square that's action and conflict, and the conflict, the square again invites you to resolve conflict, whereas a quincunx, that's a lot more difficult because they don't see each other. They're with planets. They're planets that are in signs that aren't, don't share a element or anything like that. They're not in the same mode, for example, either. So they kind of don't really have anything in common. They can't really, but where we can probably see some hope, and we can associate this with sort of difficult conversations that are happening in our private lives, as well as we're talking about the things that are happening in the UK. Obviously, we have an international audience here, so it might relate to something that's happening in your country, things that's happening with Prince Harry. Those conversations, they're going to be difficult, but because we've got that mutual reception that we talked about earlier between Mercury and Mars, possibly there is some hope. Who knows? And a new moon is a fresh start, right?
Yeah. Oh, talking about that, just before we started, I remember you say something about the new moon, right? Because it's the first new moon of the year.
Yeah. Well, what you said about in Asia, it's the Lunar New Year, and I always think just based on the astrology alone that the first new moon of the new year is the start of the new year, because it's the start of a cycle, right? So many of us wake up on a New Year's Day, the 1st of January, with a bit tired at watching the fireworks, or maybe a bit hungover if we're drinkers, and we think,
yes.
oh, never again, I'm going to change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they make their New Year's resolutions, and usually after a couple of weeks they've fallen by the wayside. So I think if you do want to make changes and make resolutions, I think this new moon is a good time, right? And also it's good to review resolutions that you might have made, and to just sort of think about a fresh start, because you're a few weeks into the new year, you're back at work. If you work, you're sort of, you know, back on the treadmill, you know, if you're in the gym or whatever you do, time to sort of, you know, that's why I think, you know, in your culture it's a much more sensible time to celebrate the new year, right? Don't you think?
I agree with you. This is pretty interesting, because there is a, for a person from Asia, I usually have a 2 New Year. So one is with the 1st January, and the second one with Lunar New Year. And from my culture, is mostly we more focused on the Lunar New Year. So, but I think you are right, because this also quite fit into like election astrology, or the medieval magic, astrological magic, which is you choose the time, you electing a date to start the things you want to do with astrology. And you usually want to do it kind of after new moon, because the new moon is a new start, new beginning. So if you choose this time, I think it's more reasonable to, you know, to work on your New Year resolution. But here I will have a few thoughts about this new moon chart related to how we going to make our the New Year resolution, if you choose this time as election time to start with it. The first, you will not ignore that Venus conjunct Saturn. Oh well, I think let's looking for the realistic and the positive way of a Venus and Saturn. The first things I think is well, to be realistic, then, like you talking about on your treadmill, that's everyone talking about a dry January, not going to drink too much. I want to do more exercise. My best friend, who is a personal trainer, who always tell me January is the most busy time in the gym, and everyone will have the first 2 weeks in January going to gym every single day and destroy themselves, because they want to have a very good start. And 2 weeks after, you know what happened? They just too tired, too hurt too much, and they just forget it. They go back to the, you know, normal.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this Venus conjunct Saturn?
Yeah, I think you're totally right about it having to be realistic and sensible. Also, it's about discipline. So if you are going to commit yourself to making changes, it's about having the discipline, which is Saturn. And with Venus, making sure it's aligned with your values, making sure you have the assets and the money. And the other thing about the new moon is that it is in a sextile, I believe. Yes, it's in a sextile to Jupiter in Aries.
Yeah.
Jupiter in Aries, Jupiter generally, but specifically in Aries, spontaneous, it can take risks. It can often bite off more than it can chew. So be careful on what you commit yourself to, because you could end up getting a little bit overwhelmed potentially. But then the value of Jupiter in Aries is that it gives energy to and drive to your desire, the things that you want to do. And it's ruled by Mars, of course, Aries, and you've got that Mars in Gemini. So again, Mars in Gemini. Oh, what, you know, talk about what you're going to do, decide what you're going to do. You might change your mind. I mean, people might change their mind quite a bit after Mars goes direct and Mercury goes direct. People might change their minds about things, decisions that they made. You could feel a little bit of regret potentially.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially you notice this like the new moon was sextile with Jupiter and the Mars. I think it kind of give it a little bit of oomph, right? Give a little bit of motivation and energy to move and to carry out something. And I think this could be quite good, to be honest, quite helpful for the people who are going to carry out their New Year plan during this time to start with, because I think the trying the Mars and the sextile to Jupiter will give you a little bit of confidence and give you a little bit more energy to move. But I'm just curious that Pluto, the conjunct the new moon is like 3 degrees away, 3 degrees away. I just like, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it's getting close. Pluto is getting close to Aquarius now, of course. It's really
Yeah.
in. And excuse me 1 second.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm
that.
just recovering from a cold, so I have to keep muting myself every time I cough. So I do apologise.
No, that's fine.
Apologise for that. Yeah, but Pluto obviously takes you to some dark places, doesn't it? I mean, Rod, you're doing a whole series of double lectures, aren't you? On
Yes,
Pluto
yes. Should I mention this first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Why you mention that? Yeah. Because on the 14th of January, I invite Alejo Lopez, one of our regular on our podcast, and also Darby Costello, going to talk about the Pluto moving into Aquarius. They both will bring some interesting aspect and the topic about Pluto moving into Aquarius, and then mostly Darby going to talk about address a little bit on the Saturn moving into Pisces as a transition. So, it is a very interesting webinar. You have two astrologers and from two generations, and not only they talk about this topic, but they also going to have like a dialogue about their view of 2023 when Saturn moving into Pisces and the Pluto moving into Aquarius. That will be very interesting. I have to say, Mandi did a great job on in November last year.
November.
Yeah, Mandi, and November was November, right?
November was
yes, November. Yeah, Mandi and Lee. You just make me doubt myself. Yeah, Mandi and Lee, Dr. J. Lee Lehman has a very, very wonderful. That was so interesting. And then December we have the Fernanda Paiva and Ling Bell. I think I am going to I think I'm testing a new system of website so I can put all this record back online, because usually I record with Zoom, so I have only 1 month and I have to remove it so I can have other recording. Now I can move them onto another website. So soon the other people, if they miss your talk, they'll be able to listen it online now. So that would be so good. So but I'm curious about this new moon so close to Pluto. Would they remind us something, or give us a warning or something? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, isn't it? To sort of go there. I mean, a new moon is a seeding, isn't it? It's a fresh start. It's seeding. It's a planning time. It's dark. Pluto is by nature dark as well. So you've got these kind of, I wouldn't want to say dark forces because that makes it sound sinister. In astrology, there's themes, and people fear Pluto. People fear Saturn, for example. But there's a certain neutrality about all these energies. It's about how they're experienced and how they're used.
So what I think is this Pluto could maybe from another from not going to say this kind of scare things. Pluto is pretty scared, but we probably have to remember when Pluto move into Capricorn, what happened for last 17, 18 years, and then this new moon going to make us realize that and put us inside of our heart when we make any decision, and with that Pluto experience. Maybe I was wondering, are we going to hear any interesting thing during that month, to be honest?
Well, Pluto digs things up, doesn't it? Pluto definitely digs
that's
things
why.
up. And Pluto's got to get past 29, it's almost there now, 29 degrees Capricorn, and it's obviously the last degree Capricorn. And that's when any planet in any sign, when it's at 20 degrees of any sign, any planet will double down on the themes of the transit of that planet through that sign. So we're going to see a doubling down potentially of a lot of the themes, or a re-emergence of a lot of the themes of Pluto and Capricorn when we think about Pluto and Capricorn. And especially when it's been in over the last few years, especially when it's been in aspect to Saturn, it brought us the banking crisis, it brought us the crash, it brought us the subprime mortgage crisis, it brought us years of austerity, it brought us right-wing politics, it brought us the global pandemic and the lockdowns, which is very sad. I'm not saying all of these things are going to happen again, but we might experience some echoes, or some of the, we might become more aware than we already are of the implications and the ramifications of what happened when Pluto has been in Capricorn, because it's going to be going into Aquarius in March, and then going back to Capricorn, and it's going to be probably next year before I think it settles in Aquarius. So we're going to get a little taste. But we've got a bit more of Saturn. Sorry, I keep saying Saturn. We've got a bit more of Pluto in Capricorn to get through. And I've been reading quite a few things online saying all lovely, amazing things about Pluto in Aquarius, how it's going to be all lovely because Aquarius is the sign of the people. Pluto doesn't work like that. Bad news, folks. Pluto doesn't work like that. Pluto shows us the things individually and society that we don't want to see, because Pluto wants to cleanse and purge those dirty taboo things that we don't want to see about ourselves and about our world. It also likes to bury things as well as digging them up. So you could get one or the other, or a bit of both. But Pluto's process is transformation, of course, and transmutation, and it's a difficult process for anything and anybody. So we are going to see transformations in society and also in people's individual lives over the next few years. But it's not going to be all sunshine and flowers and Aquarius and the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and we're all going to be hippies and love each other and all that kind of thing, and the world is suddenly going to become this amazing fair place, because that's just not going to happen overnight. I would love it to happen, of course, but I don't know. What do you think? Am I being bleak, Rod?
I'm 100% agree with you. To be honest, to be an Aquarius person, I wish all those beautiful things come true. Yes, when I read all that, but I think those things just like has a fantasy or purely describe Aquarius nice, but they forget what Pluto's in action. When Pluto in action, he probably going to bury it first and dig it out. He probably going to destroy it and forge it and remake it. So there is a whole long process for next 20 years. Just if we just put it simply thinking about that for next 20 years, when in the beginning, like today, I have a lecture, similar things, talk to my student in Chinese area, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China. So I just asked them, Pluto is about to move into Aquarius and going to shape up everything new. But when they just move in this land of Aquarius, they are already a lot of building there. What Pluto going to do? He has to remove them. He has to destroy all those and knock them down and then rebuild it. Sorry, this is more like Pluto, and that is more heavy-handed than I say knock down. So imagine that. So prepare yourself. To be honest, I'm not here to scare you, to make you afraid, so you come in to join the Alejo and the Darby's course. No, without that, I will still say the same, because it is astrologer's job to prepare this and we will see lots of things going on. And I really like what you say. You were so good. You had a beautiful, I shouldn't say beautiful, a very nice review of what happened from the 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn till the end. I mean that that is the, for this new moon, is like a catch up. So before you watch a new episode, you get a catch up. So I
Yeah.
think we will have a catch up. It's not going to all happen again, but someone going to make you remember everything. And then you say, okay, if I have a chance, or if I'm going to do it again, what I'm going to do, or where I'm starting now, where I'm, where I can start it about this Pluto moving into Aquarius. To be honest, I would say 2023 is not an easy year. But for astrologer, I mean, it's not good and bad, but there is a lot of a change and how we going to,
Any year is
see
interesting
it.
for an astrologer when you look at it objectively, isn't it? And so don't forget Pluto
Yeah.
in Capricorn exposed so many corrupt people in power as
Yes.
well. So we
Yeah.
might think awful things happened, but those things were happening anyway. But Pluto brought them up and made us aware of them. And
Mhm.
Pluto invites us to heal as those things. And remember, Pluto is a very slow moving planet. It is in our charts, and it does do transits to our charts, and they are very powerful. I have my moon and my Mars at sort of 1 degree and 3 degrees of Aquarius, so I'm going to have so I'm going to have a full-on Pluto transit, right? Like many of us Aquarian types. So it is personal, also generational. It's also about wider things, wider trends, and wider things that happen that of course affect us. And I think that's something to bear in mind, rather than being scared of Pluto. It's nice to be able to take a step back and follow Pluto, look at the themes of Pluto. We've talked about some of them of Pluto and Capricorn, and look at the themes of Pluto Aquarius. Read the themes, read the Pollyanna themes if you want to, of course. All astrology is good, and absorb those, and then see if you can observe those as they start coming through. I mean, we're already starting to see things coming through with Pluto and Aquarius.
Indeed.
Already people are talking about the second, third, or even fifth, depending on how you look at it, revolution. We have the Industrial Revolution, and this has a lot to do with the Saturn, the Jupiter-Saturn cycle as well, moving from the earth signs to air signs, but Pluto going into an air sign at the very point where we've already talked about Jupiter and Saturn had their conjunction, very important conjunction. We haven't got time to talk about how important that is now, but it is, take our word for it, is very important conjunction. Pluto's going to go into that, and we already have happening the technological revolution. So to absorb and observe all these things, it's actually really fascinating if you take the sort of wider view and take the objective view and look at, oh wow, the space, there's a new space revolution coming up. While Pluto's in Aquarius and the Jupiter Saturn is in the air signs, we're going back to space. They're going to build a base on the moon. They're talking about manufacturing in space. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, there'll be ethical issues about sort of transhumanism and that kind of thing. And we'll be where it will, by the end of Pluto and Capricorn, Pluto in Aquarius, will we all be wearing our phones in our brains or something? I don't know, but who knows? Who knows? It's just exciting as well, isn't it, Rod?
It is. Yes, it is. To be honest, we should not always look on the like kind of a doom side, but this will give us a chance to review all the theme of Aquarius, good or bad, and then how we going to embrace this, how we going to carry it out, because there are a lot of people talking about Aquarian age away. From my view, is that we still away from that. We still have 100, 300 years away from that. Sorry, Mike. If you are if you're thinking now we are already in Aquarius age, I say maybe not, because with the precision, the spring equinox point is not in Aquarius yet for next 300 years. Well, there's a lot of debate on it. I don't like debate. I just believe what I believe. But this Pluto, I 100% agree. This when the next 20 years when Pluto in Aquarius is prepare for it. Prepare everyone for that.
You know how we should prepare for it, Rod? Going back to what you said earlier, we all need to do extra maths. And then we'll all be at the forefront of the technological revolution, because we can all kind of code in space. It'd be fantastic. I mean, I wish I was younger,
Yes, Prime Minister. Okay, yes, more math. All right. But I agree. But I mean, studying is a good thing, to be honest. Studying is a good thing. Focus on studying is a good thing. But please, focus on something else. He has a lot of other things to do anyway. But thank you, Mandi. Today it's so interesting. Only you and me, and I do meet Marcus, but it's so interesting. We talk about
Sorry, we don't miss Rod. Rod's here. We miss Marcus. Sorry.
Yes,
I said we miss Rod. Yeah. We always miss Rod. Yeah. Even when he's here, we miss him. We miss Marcus when he's not here.
Well, Marcus will come back next month, I hope. And also, I will remind everyone, so I just mentioned about it, the 14th of January, Alejo Lopez and Darby Costello are going to have a webinar talking about Pluto in Aquarius. And if you want to register this webinar, please go to our website, AOAUK.co, AOAUK.co. I will also put the link here, all right? And then you can go into, click and register. It's only £38, and you can, have 1 month to see it. And very soon, I promise, I will put all the other talk on, like Mandi's talk and Lynn's talk, and they will be online, available online soon. So if you miss it, don't worry. Before the Pluto really move into Aquarius, you have a chance to watch it again. Okay, and then the next week is a special episode, because by that time I will be in Taiwan by 8 p.m. GMT will be something like 3 o'clock in the morning for me in there. So I already pre-record a special episode of a horoscope, and together with few astrologer in the Asia area, like Brian Fong from Hong Kong, Grace Chen from China, and the Celine Wang from Taiwan. We focus on 2023 when Pluto moves into Aquarius. It's going to conjunct Moon and the ascendant of China.
Oh, interesting, very interesting. Oh, that sounds like one not to miss as well.
Yeah, so the next week, next Friday, I already uploaded. So next Friday, you can looking forward to see that discussion between how people in that area see what might going to happen and what is possibility. And then I think Alejo and I will record another episode of the Astro Life, and then soon I'll come back to UK again. So we'll go back to life. Anyway, thanks, Mandi. It's so nice to have you today, and wish you have a great 2023. Although the Pluto is going around there, but we are here with you, okay? You have a friend.
Oh, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed our observations and happy and do if you can sign up for the seminar with Aleo and Darby, two brilliant astrologers. Aleo is a regular on this YouTube channel, and Darby's a brilliant astrologer as well, so it's going to be worth it.
Thank you, Mandi, and thanks everyone. See you next week. Bye.